Welcome to Voice of San Diego, Friday 5 at 5 live. I'm Scott Lewis, the CEO, editor-in-chief at Voice of San Diego. It's in the garage. It's Friday evening. It's hot. It's going to be hotter this weekend. Take care of yourselves. Don't burn up. Don't die. Find a cool spot. Don't do anything. I'm going to go fishing. I'm going to try to go fishing early in the morning. I went fishing last week with some friends. I was supposed to show them everything, so make sure we went out on a little boat. Supposed to make sure they were okay, make sure they had a good time. For a while, it was looking a little sketchy. Couple of hours, nothing was happening. Poor kid, my friend's son. There was a guy catching fish, not in another boat a little farther away, and he yells at him, "What do we do? Tell us, tell us what you're doing." I was like embarrassed, like, "No, man, we got this. We'll be all right." We moved, caught a bunch of fish, caught a halibut too small to keep, caught a spotty, couple spotties, caught a short fin corvina, a lot of great fish. I'm going to try to fish before it gets scalding hot. Stay out of the sun, drink water, take care of your pets, make sure people have a place to go. All right, we have got the Friday 5 tonight. We're going to go through 5 of the stories I think you should follow. This first one, obviously, I think we all know what the first one is. They call this silly season. They call it silly season. It's silly. This is as silly as it gets. I'm calling it the alleged footnote 15. Alleged footnote 15. It's about this building, of course. The old Sempra headquarters, 101 Ash Street. If you have any insight or any questions about 101 Ash Street or our number one of the night on the Friday 5, put them in the comments section. I'll try to answer them. If you're a VIP, maybe I'll even bring you on. What are your questions about this? But we got to get to alleged footnote 15. Let's see if I can explain this. I had a lot of people say, like, I don't understand what this thing is you're talking about, that everybody on Twitter is talking about in San Diego Public Affairs. Completely lost me. What is this? All right, let's try to do that. This is 101 Ash Street. City has a ton of employees that work in other parts of the city than City Hall. A lot of them have to rent spots. They have to, well, not them, but the city rents those offices for them, right? So a while ago, I don't know, 2010 was it, 9? The mayor thought about, like, oh, we should build a new city hall. And there was a bunch of discussion about a new city hall. Remember, it was like supposed to look like a sale or something. Didn't work. So the city's like, well, we got to do more leases then. Let's make deals for leases. And one of the ideas was that Sempra had moved out of this building, so let's lease it. Or let's buy it, was the first idea. Let's just buy it. But they didn't buy it. They went through the guy who owned it, Sandy Shapery. They couldn't make a deal. We've written about this a lot. Lisa Hallerstadt, Jesse Marks at voiceofsandiego.org. Check it out. Some great behind-the-scenes stories about how these deals came together. Sandy Shapery owned it. City decides not to buy it. He starts looking elsewhere. Doug Manchester comes in, buys half of it. Remember Doug Manchester? How could we forget? Still around. Still a big deal. Doug Manchester owns 51% of it at one point, buys a stake in it. Sandy Shapery says, that might be a good way we can that might help us sell the building to the Mayor Kevin Faulkner, because Doug Manchester is such a big supporter of him. Turns out, made it harder, made it less attractive to the mayor because it would look weird. So they go and they're like, well, let's try to figure this out. It doesn't work. So Shapery tries to figure something else out. If you have a clarifying question or something for me to keep in mind, put it in the comments. Doing my best here to explain it. So Shapery starts looking around. What's he going to do? I don't know. He's got a big building. It's probably worth a lot. It's San Diego. Always buy buildings in San Diego, right? So Shapery moves on. Finally, somebody says, why don't you get a middleman? A company that can come in and make this work for both of you. A little like you might call it facilitator. Cystera, the company Cystera comes in and says, we will do a lease to own with the city so they can do it. Now, why lease to own? Get to that question in a minute. Why lease to own instead of just buy? City enters into an agreement to lease to own the building, not from the owner, Shapery, but from this middleman, Cystera. That deal goes down. The employees never actually move in because they look and they're like, oh, this needs a lot more work than you thought it would need, than you told us it would need. They approve tens of millions of dollars, gets up to $60 million in repair work for the building. While they're doing that, though, they disturb asbestos. Don't want asbestos in the air. It's bad. Mesothelioma. Mesothelioma. Bad. So county comes in and says, you can't have people here. County runs air pollution control district, says you can't have people working here. City evacuates them, and ever since then, we're like, what are you doing with this building? You're spending all this money every year to own it. You don't have people working there. Brings up a bunch of questions about why the deal was done. So this is important information so that you can get to our first story, alleged footnote 15. So we've been doing a lot of reporting. NBC7 San Diego's been doing a lot of reporting. Union Tribune's been doing a lot of reporting, trying to figure out why this deal was made, who made the money out of it, and whether somebody's to blame for getting the city into the situation. Because to get people to move in there, city employees, it's going to cost maybe up to $200 million more, unless they decide to tear it all down or something and do a whole new building. It's a mess. So we're in the process now. The city just this week, decided to stop making those payments on that as they try to figure out how to get their money back or some other deal rearranged with the people who ended up lending that money to Cystera and to the previous owners. A bunch of people want their money. City says, we're not going to pay you. Maybe we negotiate a new deal. That's all this week. We haven't even gotten to footnote 15, alleged footnote 15. So we've been racked with questions. Why did they lease to own? Why didn't they just buy? How come the city's always leasing to own stuff instead of buying it? Second question, did they pay more than it was worth? Did they know that it was going to be this big of an asbestos mess? Did somebody know that? Why did they pay what they paid? What's going on? Two city leaders, the leader of real estate assets, Sybelle Thompson, out. Ron Villa, a deputy city manager, out. City's scrambling. City's probably going to sue somebody like Cystera. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to watch. So all these questions, why did they lease to own? Why did they spend what they spent? All those things. So into that, the day after the city decides to stop paying rent on this building that they can't move into, NBC comes out with this story. 101 Ash Street investigation looked at whether city staff, former council member Gloria misled public. Woo! So that was a big one. Most of the story is about an investigation that the city mayor hired or put in commissioned, that's the word, commissioned, to get done about this whole deal. But it also has other documents where they start to answer some of these questions, where one of the reasons we had found why the city leases to own instead of buys stuff was because they had difficulty borrowing money. And during this period, there was an attorney, Corey Briggs, who used to sue the city based on a theory that the city cannot borrow money legally without a vote of the people. It's not just a theory, it's in the city charter. Now, the city had been using a legal way around that for a long time. I am not going to try to explain that. Just know it's a way around that requirement. But Briggs was making the argument a lot that you can't borrow money like this to do things like what you want to do, to build new things or to purchase things or whatever. You have to get a vote of the people to do that. So we revealed in a story that that was part of the city officials' motivation when they said we're going to lease to own these buildings instead of buy them, because there was another building that was purchased just like that. NBC, though, this week comes up with another reason why the city would have wanted to do a lease to own, why city officials would have wanted to do a lease to own instead of a purchase, a straight out purchase. And the reason that this story says is that those city officials got an appraisal back from people who appraise things that was quite a bit lower than the $74 or so million purchase price the city was prepared to do for this. That's the NBC story, part of it. The other part of it is this second part of the headline about Todd Gloria. And that part of the story is based in large part on this part of the alleged report that NBC had gotten a hold of and was writing about, in large part in this story. They don't post the actual full report. NBC posted this. On September 1st, there was a belief that we will not be able to achieve approval for the purchase of the $72 million price, and the fact remains the general public and policymakers may not be able to get behind paying more than the appraised value. Okay, that's the part I just described. Second part here. Apparently on September 16th, before the revised transaction was scheduled, Mr. Villa, Ms. Thompson met with Council President Todd Gloria and two of his staff members for an update on the transaction. Gloria had previously been skeptical about the lease-to-own structure, but was supportive of the one-on-one lease transaction when it came to the committee, and he made the motion to approve the lease. The discussions during the update could be informative about why the city went forward. However, we were unable to obtain the city attorney's approval to interview Mr. Gloria or his staff, all of whom no longer work with the city. So that part was in the story. That's what justifies this second part. Council member Gloria misled public. They were investigating. They couldn't get to him because of this supposed blockade by the city attorney. Okay, that's the story that came out Thursday, and we were like, wow, that's a big story. But almost immediately after the story came out, the San Diego city attorney said, that's not true. That's not true. That never happened. They didn't ask us for an interview, and we never blocked it. It wouldn't have been our role to. And then they posted this letter from the attorney who did the investigation. Probably a little small to read. It says, that's footnote 15, total fabrication. The footnote is completely fabricated and was not included in our memorandum to the city. This whole thing was made up. Further, we have no knowledge of any of the information included in fabricated footnote 15. That's why the title of number 1 here for the Friday 5 is the alleged footnote 15. I've never seen anything like this. I've seen some silly stuff in the city of San Diego politics for the last 15 to 18 or 20 years, whatever. I've never seen somebody say something this big in this kind of report and then somebody just come out and say, that's literally made up. That's complete fabrication. Wow. What? So we are left with two options. Option 1 is that somebody fabricated this and then passed it along to the reporter. Now, in favor of that is that this is largely part of the narrative that Gloria's opponent, Barbara Bry, has strung out to allege that he had a major role in the conception of this deal that's been so bad, and he should have known better, and he shouldn't be mayor because of that. The second option, okay, that they fabricated that. The second option is that investigators did write some sort of footnote like this, but it was removed at some point, and now they're completely covering that up and working in cahoots with the city attorney to cover up the fact that she blocked them from talking to Todd Gloria. Those are two bananas options. It doesn't get any more bananas than that. That's so bananas. On the one hand, somebody fabricated something and passed it along to a reporter whose story is still up. Or on the other hand, they are lying. This law firm on its own letterhead, just straight lying about a fabrication. It's like Scott Wiener, or what's his, not Scott Wiener, Anthony Weiner from New York posts a photo of his on the Twitter, and he's like, no, somebody hacked me. That's the level of deceit we're talking about. No, I didn't do this footnote 15. Somebody just hacked me. They hacked my letterhead and my report. That's how bananas this is. That's how bananas this is. So that's the whole story. That's alleged footnote 15, our number one story of the week. I am interested in what makes someone a VIP, Ginger? You're a VIP, but not on this topic. We're doing affordable housing, developers, housing, all those kinds of things. I'd have you on. Andrew Bowen, why would Elliott even have the authority or ability to block the firm from interviewing Gloria? That still doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I don't think she would have the authority. I think that would be dumb too. And it doesn't make sense to anyone. But unless she's trying to cover something really hideous up, and this is really a clumsy way to do it. There's a lot of clums going on. There's muchos clumsy. It's just clums all around. Who are the investors in Cisterra that have been profiting off the rents, and are any of those people contributors to law enforcement organizations? Is that what I mean, Elliot? That's a good question. We're trying to identify those investors right now. I was told there'd be free donuts here. No, man, that's not socially distant. We can't share donuts. My God, freak. Chills. All right, that is number one story of the week. Alleged footnote 15. What is happening with alleged footnote 15? All right, let's go on. Number two story of the week. Schools. LA Times reports this week the drop of 6,000 kindergarten students in the nation's second largest school district represents a 14% decline in enrollment since last year. When combined with anecdotal reports of inconsistent kindergarten attendance in live online classes, some virtual classrooms appear to be at about 75% to 50% capacity. Anecdotally, that's what we're seeing too. I just talked with people yesterday, have in total 5 elementary students at our school, all of whom they're not going to do this anymore. They're doing homeschool. And they're not like anti-public school. These are like people who are involved. So it's not going well in all those respects. The San Diego City Schools, though, today put out a press release about this very phenomenon and said parents really need to enroll their students. Parents really need to enroll their students in kindergarten. It's a lot more than just Zoom. It is a lot more than just Zoom, which I don't know what more it is. I mean, I know that there's kindergarten teachers, and I know a couple in particular that are working their butts off right now trying to make this work. And I'm not, I don't know what the answer is to it. I'm not going to sit here and say that they should be reaching through the internet and grabbing kids' brains better, because I know it's for a 5-year-old on this sort of format, it's not easy. Elmo. I mean, we could hire Elmo. I don't know. 5-year-olds are even past Elmo. San Diego Unified School District emphasizing the families that children who turn 5 this week or earlier should enroll in kindergarten. This spring, the largest group of students who failed to log in for online learning were kindergartners, 51%. Here's the Cindy Martin, the superintendent of San Diego Unified Schools. As a former elementary school teacher, I want parents to know that there is much more than Zoom calls happening for our kindergartners right now, but in the rest of the press release, they don't say any of those things. It's, a lot of people at kindergarten's an option. You're not subject to the truancy laws, that sort of thing that might come with first grade. So they're obviously a little worried that parents and kids are going to lose connection with their schools. They did not remember last week we talked about the governor opening things, which I think inherently puts in danger our ability to hit those targets that the school district needs to be able to open, which thus means he may have just put off schools opening, but the school district did not say anything about that. They did not have a press conference about how inappropriate they felt that was, but they do have a message for a different government body. They got together with all of the the Congress people from the area and talked about how they need to get back to school and how they need far more money from the federal government. The House passed the HEROES Act, another giant trillions of dollars we're talking about, a relief package that has not made it through the Senate or even really got much of a chance in the Senate. I read something today about how if the job numbers or other things indicate that they don't feel panicked, they're not going to do it. Okay, but here's San Diego Unified with a message to Senate Republicans.
They spoke surrounded by photos showing school buses arranged to spell SOS at the district bus yard. SD Unified says they need additional federal funding for safety precautions should students be allowed to return to the classroom. So things like increased sanitation, physical barriers for social distancing in classrooms, gyms, and auditoriums, more school buses, and providing masks. They spoke.
And providing masks, need billions. So that's what they're doing this week. When they did that announcement, they're like, we can't open. I think it was Kathleen Bade from Fox 5. She did a tweet. She said, SD Schools, San Diego Unified says if there's any chance of students returning to the classroom, they're in dire need of federal funding. So Mitch McConnell is how I'm going to have kids back to school. That's sad. That is not. I try not to think about it too much because it fills me with profound despair. But I need to keep it up. I need to keep you guys up. We need to be rallying. We've got to get through this. I got my Voice of San Diego shirt on. My kids dyed it with a tie-dye. How popular would Voice of San Diego tie-dyes be? I think it'd be pretty good, right? I need to do that. This is one of the real old ones. This is one of the really old ones. So I was just checking out the comments. If you have any comments, put them in there. If you have any questions, put them in there. I don't know what schools are going to do. Today, the county announced there was a giant outbreak. Well, not giant, 14 or so different places where SDSU students were getting the virus. And they warned SDSU students to stay inside, stay home. It's not even been a week. Well, I guess it's been exactly a week since the county said it's cool to go to restaurants with bars. It's cool to go to cool to do that again, but you need to stay inside. Their whole messaging this week has been, you better wear your masks. You better wear your masks. I mean, all they're doing is setting it up so that when it spikes, because it's going to, because they did what they did, they're going to say, I told you to wear your masks. I told you to wear your masks. And then we won't have school or anything. And see, you can't fail. San Diego County can't fail you. Only you can fail San Diego County. That's the message. All right, number 3 story of the week is that. Couldn't help but see this today. This story, county virus data omits details. It's fun to be drinking coffee and see your organization right there. It's right, we're trying to get this data. We want the virus data because, again, one of the metrics that the county's using is this 7 outbreaks over 7 days. They have to get that. They've never hit that. It seems literally impossible. The school district, though, picked it as one of the things that they're going to have to hit with the union to be able to open. So, ergo, schools will never open because it's impossible. So we've been asking them, not just because of that, but because of other things, like why they use that data. 2 local news organizations, Voice of San Diego and KPBS, recently sued the county, demanding the release of unredacted outbreak information on the grounds that such information could help contain the spread of the virus. Yeah, that, and we could evaluate the impact of their decisions to open when they did, and what that meant for why schools went from being able to open to not open, and other things, people suffering, for instance. So in this story, there's that message that there's none of the details in that new data came out, but there's also the 2-part explanation from the county. One part says, well, we didn't release the data because nobody's in danger for it. You know, we'll tell you that there's a big outbreak at San Diego State or with their students because that means there's something you can do about it. But with this data, you can't do anything with it, so it's not a big deal. You don't need to see it. But it's such a big deal that if you saw it, everything would go bad. And they said that. Their justification is that it would make things worse. I don't have their quote right here. It would make things terrible. It would be worse for the public if we got information and you got that information than if you didn't. We got you, we'll take care of you. We will take care of you. Don't worry. Okay? Got it? But the second part of it is that it's the hardest thing. It's the worst information. We can't have it. All right, sorry, got distracted. Number 4, Kelly Davis, great investigative reporter, contributes to Voice of San Diego from time to time, did a story about a longtime sheriff's employee who says she was told to keep quiet about what really happened leading up to a man's suicide in the Vista jail. The county withheld her as a witness in the case. In an explosive declaration, medical records clerk at Vista jail said she was threatened with retaliation if she told anyone that she'd confronted a jail sergeant who had refused to put Aaron Moriarty on suicide watch. Moriarty's family said the county knowingly withheld the clerk as a witness. She has confirmed that. Incredible story from Kelly Lynn Davis. Check that out at voiceofsandiego.org. You won't miss it on the homepage. And number 5, our Jesse Marks posted this. So we do public records requests all the time. This is remember they said redacted. They always redact the documents, try to protect us. Remember, we've got to protect the public. The role of government communication officers is to infantilize the public. We know better than you. We will protect you from this information. Scald your eyes. It'll scald your eyes. You can't handle it. So we requested from the city of San Diego documents about their ShotSpotter program, you know, where they try to detect gunshots. They wanted devices and have devices hung up. They have a certain decibel that they'll register that there was a shot. They'll send that information to the police. Police can get there and see what happened. ShotSpotter, criminal justice advocates or reform advocates are concerned that some of these ShotSpotters, you know, are located in certain areas that indicate a bias, a problem. We wanted some documents about the ShotSpotter program, and this is what Jesse Marks got back. This is what we deal with out there in the world of public records. I think it's just really interesting that they do this because they're required, and it's kind of a nice like rule of law thing, right? Like they're doing us the courtesy of acknowledging that they don't care about our right to see information. They're doing this the courtesy to acknowledge that they're holding something back from us, all of these things, but it's, you know, it's needed. We have to do that. But here's what it would, there'd be stuff under there if you were ready for it, if your brains could handle it. But you can't, so we're not going to give it to you. We'll give you this instead. I believe that Jesse called it their brutalist phase. I think that we kind of have a theme going here. I don't know if this is technically brutalist. If you look at it from the bottom over here, it is because it, I'm no architect, I'm sorry, not art history person, but it does, when you look at it from the bottom, it's up on like 10 steps or so, and then it's got that those sharp features. It seems kind of like what like Francoist Spain would build. You know what I mean? So Jesse said, congrats on your brutalist phase, city of San Diego. We'll have to push them to release more about that. All right, I did want to highlight a couple of other stories. So it's the Friday, come on, it's 5 plus. You want to check out Mackenzie Elmer's story about the Water Authority resurrecting its pipe dream. Great story about, well, maybe I'll wait in a minute. If you want me to explain the water story, I will. Sit there and love it. I love it. But let's see if you want to in a second. I'll go over a couple others. Also, Lisa Halverstadt had a great story this week about how MTS frequently overrules doctors' orders on reduced fares for the disabled. Bunch of people with disabilities submitted applications to get a discounted fare from Metropolitan Transit Systems, you know, the trolleys and buses, and they didn't get them at a really high rate. MTS's doggedness in collecting money, especially from the poorest or most vulnerable, is you gotta say it's pretty strong. It's pretty well enforced what they want, money from poor and vulnerable people. They are not gonna give them a break. Gotta teach them. Go work. That's MTS to the people who use their services. Also, you want to check out Maya Sri Krishna did a story. One of the most important races in the county is the county supervisor race in South Bay. Both Democrats running, but very different approaches. Nora Vargas and Ben Hueso. Maya Sri Krishna did a story about how their different approaches might come into being at the county, especially with regard to COVID-19, and how they'll maybe adjust for some of the disparities we've seen in how the disease has spread throughout the county. Very interesting story there. I recommend it. All right, let us go to some of your questions. Was anything about the NBC report or release memo in question, or just and will Todd Gloria be interviewed by investigators, or was that the final report memo? I don't know. He says he's willing to be. We'll see. It's just a made-up metric. A reporter, Will, nailed the question on Wednesday, but Fletcher cut him off. Yeah, Will Hunsberry asked Wilma Wooten this week. We quoted it on the podcast. He's like, what are you doing about that? That metric's never going to get hit. 7 outbreaks per 7 days. You're never going to hit that. And, or I don't think he said that, but that's me saying it, but he said something skeptical about the number. And Wilma Wooten, the public health officer, said, we're going to review that number. We are going to review that number. I'm tired of being blamed for non-compliance by the county health department. Now, I'm a mask guy. I've started to get used to masks. I feel comfortable with it. When I have conversations where I'm in a store, went to the fishing store today to take care of an errand and get the line on. And it didn't even occur to me that everybody's wearing masks. We were having a conversation about everything. That's progress. I kind of like mine. I got some better looking masks. I highly recommend doing some shopping for masks. Get ones that you like, because it really does make a difference. I clicked on so many ads for masks on Instagram that it got to be absurd how many ads for masks I started to see across the internet. But I clicked on every one, so I got more and more. It was like a avalanche. I had to stop at some point. But I got a bunch of really good masks. Very happy with them. It's like a bigger beard. All right, any other questions about 110 West? Does anybody want me to explain that water thing, or should we all go and watch the Padres? Coming up in a little while, Oakland A's rookie Jorge Campusano is coming up for the first time. He's going to be the DH. Very excited about that. I don't understand your first part of your question. Was anything else about NBC report or release memo in question, or just footnote 15? Judge, footnote 15 is the only one I think that they claim was fabricated. Everything, that's what's interesting about the whole question is, the rest of the story is interesting, but yeah, this whole thing about footnote 15 is really distracting. It absolutely is. All right, one person asked for the water thing. You bet. Here's the water thing. We get our water. So I'm in San Diego. San Diego Water Department provides water. Water Department gets its water from the San Diego County Water Authority. Now, San Diego as a region gets most of its water from either Northern California or the Colorado River. So the Sacramento Delta or the Colorado River. But both of those sources of water are brought to us by the Metropolitan Water District. So we, as San Diego County Water Authority, pay the Metropolitan Water District to sell us this water, to move this water for us. And we get about, it used to be like 95% of our water came that way. Now we have a lot more diverse sources. We don't have to rely on that much, but it's still a majority of our water comes through there. The County Water Authority is literally spending money right now to investigate a different option. They want to build their own pipeline right next to the Metropolitan Water District, stop paying Metropolitan Water District, and run this line by itself right next to it so that we don't have to pay them. So it's not that we would be, most of the things we've been doing to get water diversity in this community is we diversify by providing more different sources, right? Desalination, for example, we create water with that. But this would be an effort to not get more water, not store more water, just not have to pay those people to get that water. And so it would cost like $5 billion. But this is the one that got me. It would need so much energy to pump all of that water here that you could power 1.4 million homes per year. So 1.4 million homes per year is more homes than there are here now. So we'll take all the homes and how much energy we use, all these lights, internet, and then double that and more. And that's what you would need to do to bring water here on our own thing instead of using metropolitans. And they're spending money studying that right now at the County Water Authority. That is a priority at the County Water Authority. So that story is really interesting. You can check it out at voiceofsandiego.org, Mackenzie Elmer. All right, I have to do a few things before the Padres start. Thank you so much for joining today and all your questions and comments. If you have any more, let me know. Otherwise, hope you have a safe and happy weekend. Take care. Do not go out except you can go out. Just quoting the San Diego County, don't go out, but you can. Maybe you should. Don't go out, but you can. Maybe you should. Stay outside, wear a mask. Let's get back to school. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Oh, also PolitiFest, politifest.org. Registration is open, politifest.org. Check that out. You can sign up. There are big debates at the end of the month. Love you guys. Have a good weekend.